All right. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. Welcome to Stable Stories. Stable Stories is a podcast video series highlighting the founders, builders, and pioneers working in the stablecoin space. Today, we are lucky to have Lorenzo Romagnoli, co-founder of USDT0. USDT0, for those who don't know, which I doubt you are among them, is a project that is working on bringing USDT to every ecosystem, every chain, making it as seamless, quick, and possible to access your USDT funds wherever you might need them. Welcome, Lorenzo. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very well. So thank you for having me, and pretty excited to do this.
Yeah, of course. Me too, actually. This would be a good one. Very stoked. So yeah, let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your background in crypto, how you got started with it, and what you're working on now.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Lorenzo. I've been working in crypto for kind of all of my work life, effectively. I started doing DeFi stuff when I was in university, and I've always been kind of revolving around the Tether ecosystem. I studied econ and finance in London when I was younger. I'm Italian, and I moved to Switzerland like 4 years ago now. So I've always been very passionate about kind of economy, the financial world, the financial markets, and so on and so forth. And funnily enough, I actually got my first introduction to crypto way before I had a bank account. So I had a MetaMask wallet where I could receive USDT way before I could open a bank account, or way before I even knew exactly how a bank was effectively working. So my background is always very DeFi and crypto native. And yeah, as I was saying, I've always been working in and out of DeFi for the last 5 to 6 years of my life now. Very, very passionate about decentralized protocol, very, very passionate about giving access to financial tooling to people that might not have this kind of access. And that's one of the main reasons why I love working on USDT-related assets.
Incredible. I want to just reiterate that one time, because I don't know if I've ever met anyone else before. You had a crypto wallet before you had a bank account.
Way before, yes. So there's this funny story that I always tell, that when I was in London, I did not have any income, right? So I had to ask my parents to send me money. And my father introduced me to the concept of weekends and banks. And I was like, hey, I'm broke in London. I have no more money. Can you send me something to go over, like, to survive the weekend, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, sure, it's going to arrive on Monday though. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it's Friday.
It's Saturday, and I'm hungry
what
now.
are you saying? It was Friday. I was like, what the fuck are you saying? Yeah. And his position was basically, yeah, it takes the whole weekend. Did you never do a bank wire? And in that moment, I realized that I never initiated a bank wire over the weekend. And that was 2021, which means that I have had a Bitcoin wallet for like 3 years at that point, and so on and so forth. Which has been very, very funny. It's one of the things I usually tell people to explain to them how outside of the traditional financial market I've always been.
Yeah, that's the parallel that springs to mind is there's this in the Matrix, there's like people who were never born with the plug, like born in the natural world. I feel like you're probably like one of the few like
somewhat like that. The first time I ever discovered Bitcoin, it was in second or third year of high school. I don't remember exactly when. One of my family members came over and said, well, you should look into this thing. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, that's very cool. And then I went back playing Call of Duty. If I had done something smarter back then, it would have been very, very funny. The summer after I did do something smarter, though, I started working for the whole summer and I bought my first 800 euros worth of Bitcoin, and I got hacked 3 days later, which was very, very funny. So it was, trial by fire, I guess. So
yeah. Everyone that's been around long enough in the industry has had like a few of those experiences or stories like that, and it's best not to go back and do the math.
There's only two people in this industry: the people that got hacked and the people that didn't get hacked yet, I think. So sooner or later, 100%. It's going to happen to everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. And tell us a little bit more about USDT0, what you're working on now.
Yeah, so it's exactly 1 year ago, basically, we just crossed our first year anniversary. Myself and my two other co-founders, Kevin and Kino, we basically went together, and actually way more than a year ago when we first had the idea behind it. And we basically identified a problem in the industry. We were looking at it from a DeFi perspective, and we were basically asking us this big question: why isn't there enough USDT usage in large DeFi protocols? And while Ethereum mainnet was still somewhat competitive, other chains basically had no USDT usage. And we looked at each other, we're like, well, that makes no sense. USDT is clearly the best asset in the world. It's clearly the one that acts faster when there is hacks. It is meant to be one of the best possible assets to be integrated within the DeFi ecosystem, right? But yet something is not working. And then we started working together with the Tether team on a bunch of other stuff. And then we were also somewhat taking part of the deployment on Tron. And then we realized how hard it is to actually bring funds into an ecosystem when the ecosystem launches. So we looked at each other and we're like, well, there is a way to make this better. We've known the LayerZero team for a while, and we sit down on a table with them and we're like, hey, we think this thing could be massive. We are basically taking an improved technology, which is the OFT standard, and we are putting it on the best asset arguably in all of crypto when it comes to stablecoins. We think it's going to be amazing. We pitched it to Tether, we pitched it to everyone, and everybody was very, very excited. And then we started explaining it to chains, and for 6 months, nobody cared. And they were like, no, thank you, we'll go with the old standard or something else. Until one day, one chain actually said yes to us, which was Inc., Kraken's chain, which was our launch partner. We launched this thing in our first day of existence. We moved 500K. And I was like, well, that's insane. Like you're telling me that every day there's going to be 500K worth of people moving between our chains, and that's how it started. And 12 months later, we're now looking at what is arguably the largest single asset interoperability infrastructure in the whole world. The USDT0 network moves on average between 150 and 300 million USDT every day. I think our record day was like 2.8 billion when Plasma launched in volumes. And it's been a wild ride. It's been very, very fun, and we are stoked by the support that we got from the overall community and the rest of the ecosystem. Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna ask the stupid questions. I'm sure everybody else already knows this, but explain to me exactly how USDT0 powers the growth of the USDT network and the relationship there.
Yeah, that's a very good question. First of all, it's actually pretty easy to understand. So our theory is that as long as you have an interoperable version, so a version of USDT that can move between networks, you can effectively bootstrap your own ecosystem in a way more efficient way if you had a native version of something else. Basically, the way it works, as I said, is very elegant. You have one single contract, which is our USDT lockbox that sits on Ethereum mainnet. You deposit in those contracts your USDT ERC20 on Ethereum mainnet, and then you send a cross-chain message via LayerZero on the receiver chain, and then you get minted USDT0 tokens. Once those USDT0 tokens are inside the network or any chains that we support, they are fully interoperable between all of our networks. That means you can move them without limitation of size in a fully non-custodial and centralized manner, effectively meaning that you can do it without any KYC or anything of the sort. You're just interacting with a smart contract. And more importantly, you do it for free. We do not charge any fees on our transfers because we are big. Like we believe that as long as we give a product to the people and we remove friction, we're gonna get adoption and we're gonna get usage. And so far, it's been pretty successful. So for every single USDT0 in existence, there is one USDT on Ethereum mainnet backing it in what we call our lockbox, our main smart contract. The USDT0 lockbox is the third or fourth. I didn't check this morning, but it's the third or fourth largest single holder of USDT in the world. We currently have 4.8 billion inside, and it's basically where all of the funds that are backing USDT0 are residing. And therefore, as I said, you want to go to Plasma, you lock USDT on Ethereum mainnet, and then you go to Plasma. You want to go back to Ethereum mainnet, you burn the USDT0 on Plasma, and then you unlock the equivalent amount of USDT on Ethereum mainnet. Sounds easy. To operate it, it's very, very hard because obviously we have a lot of responsibility and we always need to make sure that nothing goes wrong. But it's very elegant, and so far it's been pretty cool. Amazing.
Okay, and can you go back a little bit and talk about some of the friction points that this USDT unified liquidity layer is solving for that would have existed previously?
Yeah.
In the old state?
Think about it like this. Even today, right? If you're trying to move USDT from Tron to Ethereum mainnet, let's assume that our products were not existing. You only have three main choices. Choice number one is deal directly with Tether and coordinate on what is called a chain swap. Chain swap are usually very big in size. We're talking about billions of USDT every time that they need to happen. And in order to be able to do it, you need to be a verified Tether customer. You need to have a contact directly with the Tether operational team. And it's usually something that centralized exchanges do on a not daily, but weekly basis, I should say, to basically rebalance the treasuries that they own on each of those networks. So this is option number one. It's worked pretty fine until the launch of USDT0, but it's somewhat, it creates a lot of friction, delays, you need to process multi-sig transactions on the Tether main multi-sig every time this happens. It creates frictions, as I was saying. Option number two is relying on third-party bridges, which it is something that has worked also pretty well in the past, but unfortunately, you need liquidity on both sides of these bridges. So there is a big capital inefficiency, and effectively you just need to be able to attract liquidity provider, which is very hard. The average Joe, if he wants to move USDT from Tron to Ethereum, would probably use a centralized exchange. So you deposit USDT on Bitfinex, on Tron, and then you withdraw USDT on Ethereum from Bitfinex. This is very complex. And what I believe has resulted in is a concentration of the percentage of USDT on only a couple of networks. If you look at the distribution of USDT assets across the different chains, you're going to be able to see that around, I think it's like 97% of all of the USDT in existence are either on Tron or Ethereum mainnet. And part of this reason was because of what I was explaining. There is a friction between the parties that are trying to move those assets between the networks, because there is not a technology that allows you to do it in a very streamlined approach. And yeah, so that was the thesis that we started on. It's very challenging, and if you look at it from a network perspective, if you want to onboard people onto your own chain, you can either do it by telling your users to get verified with Tether, use third-party bridges, or rely on centralized exchanges. But unfortunately, each one of those options is not the most straightforward or the most efficient one. So we try to make it better, and that's how basically USDT0 was born.
Yeah, I mean, if you can solve the liquidity issue for new exchanges launching, and your money is by default already there when it launches, that's a huge unlock. Definitely. And you also
help out a lot of the users, right? Because if I'm a user and I have to figure out how to bring, even like when you speak with people that are in Africa or in Latin America, they don't really care about this chain terminology. For them, USDT is USDT, right? And it's probably either on Tron or Ethereum. But if you speak with more educated users, like, I don't know, large hedge funds or DeFi farmers or anything of the sort, you are in a situation where you're basically like, what bridge can I use to go there? Am I willing to pay 50, 60, 70 bips every time I'm transferring those tokens? It's just very, very complex.
Definitely. And you've been doing this just over a year. You said January 15th was your 1 year anniversary. Congratulations. That's
January
awesome.
15th was the anniversary in 2025. It was the culmination of like around 6-8 months of work, and even more of ideation and pitching to everyone. So it's been very exciting. And I mean, we really got an amazing year. I can say this pretty openly, mostly because it's not just because we did an amazing job, but it's because of all of our partners and all the chains that we have integrated. In our first year, we closed more than $63 billion in total USDT volumes, which makes it larger than any other cross-chain interoperability infrastructure apart from LayerZero, on which we are built upon.
Amazing. Yeah, that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
That's nice.
Any interesting like tidbits, learnings, or how did this year square against your expectations when you launched on day one?
I got blown out of the water very, very easily. Like if you had asked me a year ago, where would you be in 1 year? I would have probably told you maybe we're going to reach 150 million in issuance, and maybe we're going to consistently close $10 million in volume a day. That would have been a big win for us. But then actually, as soon as the Arbitrum migration happened, so I don't know if you're familiar, but basically on what happened on Arbitrum was that the Tether multisig gave us ownership of the version of Tether that was live on Arbitrum, and we were able to basically upgrade it into USDT0. The same thing happened on Polygon after a couple of months. After that moment, it was the amount of acceleration that we experienced was really crazy. Our main worry and our main focus for the entirety of 2025 was making sure that we could keep up our security, technical, and even business development standards to the amount of usage that we were seeing. Because we went from effectively a team that nobody knew in the industry and that we were just very, very close to Tether, to effectively become one of the pillars on which interoperability between chains is now built in 2025. And again, this is definitely not because we reinvented the wheel. We just made something that was already amazing, Tether, 1%. I mean, I hope it was 1% better, which is very hard to do.
Definitely. I want to double click on the relationship with Tether a little bit more. So this isn't your first project with Tether. Have you done other things with them previously?
Yes, correct. I was one of the persons together also with my co-founders. We launched something called Alloy, which is an official Tether product. It's something super interesting and I'm extremely bullish on. It's something that's taking a lot of time to actually work because it's complex. But the idea is that we think that the best possible asset to back a stablecoin on chain is effectively gold. Because if you think about it, there's very few assets that you can manage at scale better than gold from a liquidation and a lending perspective and collateral management perspective. So Alloy was basically a very collateralized deposition based stablecoin where you could deposit Tether Gold and mint Alloy USDT, AUSDT. The day we launched it was the day, I think it was the day that Tether broke its previous all-time high. So we decided to keep it on a shelf and have it ready in case we ever wanted to take it out again. And then we immediately jumped working on something that could propel the main business, is USDT itself.
Very cool. On that note, fitting for my next question, I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of freedom tech. It seems to keep coming up in the Tether ecosystem. The relationship between stablecoins, Bitcoin, gold. I mean, Tether does, a lot for the Bitcoin community. It's got a strategic reserve, puts a lot of its, revenue generated into a Bitcoin holding position as well. Paolo's outspoken about the need for freedom tech. You've mentioned it before. Wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about your the philosophical underpinning of what you're building, why you're building it, both for yourself, and you don't have to speak for the entire ecosystem of Tether, but both for yourself and the ecosystem that you're operating in.
I'm very, very lucky because for the last, as I said, 5 to 6 years, I've been basically very involved within the whole Tether ecosystem, right? So I know very well the people that are building Kit, their messaging platform. I know very well the people that are building Hole Punch, the technology that basically powers Kit, the Tether Gold team, the Rumble, the WDK team. All those people have been people that I've always known and that I really, really respect. One of the main reasons why myself, and I don't want to speak for my two co-founders, but I'm pretty certain that a part of our decision-making was also based on this, was this concept of freedom tech. I think we are in an industry where we have a unique opportunity that very few people and very few industries ever had, which is nurture and grow an industry from the ground up while helping the people that have been historically left out by the system. And that's also what brought me to DeFi in the first place, right? I love the idea of being able to have decentralized lending markets like what Aave and what Morphe are doing that can be accessed by anyone as long as they have a MetaMask wallet or a Ruby wallet or an Ethereum private key for what that matters. I think it's one of the most Bitcoin vision aligned things that you could ever have because of course, there's the Bitcoin maxis that are going to tell you you're a shitcoiner, but if you think about what we're actually building, you're building a completely decentralized and transparent non-censorable, censorship resistant, I should say. My English is done at 7 p.m.
Oh, that's great.
A censorship resistant system that anyone can use, no matter the color of their skin, no matter their political ideologies or anything of the sort. It's something that is out there. And I am a strong believer that financial freedom is something that any humankind, any human being in the world should have. So that's what drove me to DeFi. And then I looked into DeFi and I saw that there are so many players that are using this just as a facade. And then in reality, they're just trying to make a lot of money, which I totally understand. Everybody wants to make a lot of money. But if you can make a lot of money while helping the people that actually are in need of help, it makes you feel better. At least that's how I always saw it. I've always seen it. And that matched completely with what Tether is building right now. I don't want to speak for them. Obviously, they don't need me to speak for them. But I don't think there's any other entities, not only in our industry, but in the world in general, that have done so much to basically push freedom in general to the world. Freedom of speech, financial freedom, freedom of education. And we're just very, very lucky to be able to contribute to that ecosystem. And we are also very, very lucky to have our products being deeply integrated within the rest of this ecosystem, right? Like USDT0 tokens are integrated in the Rumble wallet. USDT is part of the USDT0 infrastructure runs on Hole Punch technology, which If your listeners have never heard of Hole Punch and Kit, I definitely recommend them to look into it, because it's one of the most secure and private way of communicating between two persons that you could currently use. And yeah, so basically that was the idea, and then we tried to build our whole network, USDT0 itself, with that in mind. We want it to be something that is permissionless. We want it to be something that is not trying to make money on the people that are moving USDT from chain A to chain B, because we do not know what kind of income those people have. Right? Like if you're charging 20 bips, it could be a days of work for someone, right? So our position was, we're going to make it completely free, and we're going to give it to the people to use, and let's see how that goes. And every decision that we make, and every time we have crossroad to make, we always try to align ourselves with the vision that Paolo and the rest of the team have basically been preaching for the last I don't know how many years they've been in the industry right now. And I really think there is nobody else that is championing those ideals better than Paolo and the rest of Giancarlo and the rest of the Tether team.
Definitely. And it's really interesting, because it feels like there are segments of the market that are just waking up to that philosophical underpinning of the Tether community. We talk about building where users are, building products for users. But for so many years, Tether and Tron were driving entire economies that were actually on the ground the populations that most needed the technology that we were building towards, right? I think for a lot of time, parts of the Ethereum ecosystem sort of overlooked the organic and necessary growth that Tether and Tron was driving, for whatever reason, technical, philosophical, whatever. But that seems to have very much shifted over the last year or two. And I'm wondering, like, from your perspective, from someone who's been Tether pilled for a very long time and who grokked it early, what lessons can segments of the rest of the Web3 community that maybe was late to show up to that learn?
Very good question. Well, it's a hard one, right? Like the lessons that I'm taking from it is that you should always try to identify a problem, no matter how big it is, and try to solve it one step at a time. I do not believe that when Tether was created, it was created with the idea of revolutionizing the whole world like they're doing now. They were trying to solve one small problem. And I think our whole industry used Tether to solve one single small problem in that specific moment. The problem was, I need to be able to arb the price of Bitcoin between centralized exchanges without having to wait 3 to 7 days because of a bank transfer. And that was a very small problem they were trying to solve that got immediate, enormous amount of interactions. And then if you look at the graph, there's this speech that Paolo always gives as his keynotes. If you look at the graph of issuance of USDT, you can clearly see when the pandemic started, and you can see the amount of USDT that got immediately emitted after that, because whole economies, pardon my English, but effectively went to shit in that period. And all of those users, they needed to find a way to basically take their hard money that they've been working for and basically use, maybe save it for their whole life, and putting into something that was not debasing or devaluating 98% in a year. And Tether was the only thing that allowed you to do it. And the fact that it was, again, fully permissionless to acquire it and fully permissionless to transfer it and free to transfer it, because people overlook the fact that Tether doesn't charge any fee on a transfer. That's something that 99.9% of the money transmitters in the world do not comprehend and don't do, right? Like for us, it's normal to think that if I send PayPal to my friend, they have to pay a little bit. But Tether never did that. They did it completely for free. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was really, really important. So what lessons can people take from it? Find something that you think is not right and that you think should be improved, and focus on improving that. You're not going to see the next $1 trillion idea from the moment you identify the problem, but building it slowly on top of this problem-solving idea that you're trying to get to will maybe get you there. And I think it's something very important, and it's something that a bunch of DeFi protocols kind of lost their way in the last few years. I remember when DeFi started during DeFi summer in 2020 and 2021, it was different. It felt different. It felt like people wanted to build cool stuff. Now everyone is becoming more and more TradFi, if you know what I mean, which is weird. It's very weird for me. At least for me, I'm like, I would have never guessed these people speaking in this conference with these guys. Like that's not the thing, you know? So,
StableCoins, I think, is the new term, right? StableCoins?
Say that again?
suit coins,
Suit coins,
suit coins.
The new version of shit coins, I guess.
What's really interesting is I've had a bunch of conversations with founders who are building very legitimate, amazing projects, slightly tracking on the TradFi end, but the number of them that are still Bitcoin maxis at heart with the same philosophical underpinnings and ethos is still there. So like the fire's still burning, which is nice. And I think, anyways.
I think so. I mean, I deal with a lot of Bitcoin maxis, and there's this kind of an inside joke of the fact that I call myself the most reasonable Bitcoin maxi in the world because I do save my money in Bitcoin, you know. But at the same time, I can identify some of the shortcomings that Bitcoin had, and I think if we do not acknowledge them and we don't try to fix them, we're going to be left behind, effectively. But yeah, I'm also a huge gold bug, so it's pretty straightforward.
I know it completely anecdotally, but I feel exactly the same way. I think the technologies are complementary, and none of them, frankly, stand alone. So like, you know, I'll take Peter Schiff, I'll take Sailor, like I'll take them all. I'll take them all.
Like, I mean,
everyone has something to contribute. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like people need to realize that gold is not in competition with Bitcoin. Gold is very clearly in competition with the US dollar and every other fiat currency in the world. And Bitcoin is just too small right now to underpin the whole world economy. So we need to wait time and we need to nurture it and we need to grow it slowly, while gold is there already. And with Tether Gold, you can literally own physical gold in a fully decentralized and fully permissionless way. I've said it multiple times, I'll say it again. I think one of the biggest things that's going to happen in the next few years is that we're going to see the market cap and the issuance and the usage of Tether Gold literally skyrocket. Because when you get it, especially if you're a DeFi builder, you should build on gold. And you should realize that there is not a better asset to build your whole DeFi infrastructure on than gold. So it's definitely something that I'm very, very focused on.
Amazing. We touched on that a little bit. Do you want to go a little bit deeper into Tether Gold?
Yeah, sure.
A little more about how it works mechanically under the hood or anything else?
Yeah, so somebody from Tether Gold should be here and explain it better. But
okay,
the way I like to explain it is basically Tether, but you should think about it as a stable coin that is not denominated in US dollars. It's actually denominated in ounces of gold. And it's not backed by paper gold or anything of the sort. It's backed by actual physical gold sitting in a vault actually in Switzerland, which is
a massive distinction. A massive distinction.
Massive distinction.
Physical and paper, which I think we are in the process.
One thing is paper gold that a lot of people are trying to explain to you as if it was the new next thing. Another thing is actual bars of gold that are sitting in a vault. I had this discussion this morning with my banker. I was like, I would like to buy some gold, and he quoted me an insane price to actually buy it, like 200 bips above price. I was like, what?
I was I was really interested. I was going to call my guy back in Canada to see what the premium was right now.
Don't. It's gonna buy XAUT on Uniswap. It's a way better way to actually get exposure to gold, or on centralized exchanges, but for that matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically the idea is I give you an ounce of gold, I get one XAUT token, and if I want to burn it, I send you one XAUT and I get back my ounce of gold. I can even get back the physical gold if I want to. They have a service that delivers gold 24/7, I think, in all of Switzerland. I don't know how many people used it. It would have been pretty funny. I know one person that used it once, but it's there, right?
The fact that it exists is I think the important part, right?
Exactly. And my point is, the moment that DeFi builders and DeFi ecosystems will realize how good of an asset gold actually is to do literally anything, right? Like the main use case is providing it as collateral for loans. It's just an eye-opening moment that I had, and I got gold peeled, and I never went back, basically. So, and we also, by the way, I didn't mention it, but Tether Gold is only live on Ethereum mainnet. On all the other chains, we are taking care of bringing it to. So it's all powered by XAUT0, which is obviously growing smaller and at a slower pace. But our goal when it comes to Tether Gold is lay down the railways for when the demand will come. Because I strongly believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, if we're lucky, something big will happen to the world economy, and people will realize the value of gold realistically. And we as an industry need to be ready for that to come. We need to have all the railways ready so that when all those people are going to try to come and get gold, they're not going to have a hard time, and it's going to work out.
I tend to agree with you. I think 5 years might be optimistic. I hope it's not, but I think it might be. That's really interesting because that actually solves for two of my biggest concerns about gold. I'm a big fan of gold, but the ability to rehypothecate unless you're holding silver or gold, and the transportability are two of the biggest issues, and it sounds like that's
absolutely. But Tether Gold solved both of them basically. Yeah,
that's really interesting.
The coolest thing for me was when I don't remember where I was. I was at a conference and somebody was offering one of those pay from any token to any token solution to buy a coffee. And I bought myself a coffee with some Tether Gold. And I was joking with my friends. I was like, wow, this feels like 1400. It's amazing.
That's cool. It'd be really cool if there was if you could get a live camera in the vault so you could check in on your gold at any time and you could plug in
Someone may have pitched this to Tether, and
really?
Tether Legal and Tether Security may have tried to kill him. So that someone may have ended up doing interoperability for USDT because he's not allowed to speak anymore with the lawyers. But someone may or may not have pitched it.
Fair enough. That's funny.
But one thing one thing you can do is that you can look up on which bars of gold the XAUT that you're holding in your address are actually located. So if you add your address on the Tether Gold website, I think it's still live. They give you the serial number of the bar on which your ounces of gold are on, which is pretty cool. It's nice.
Yeah, very cool.
We have to integrate it with USDT0. That would be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, we're just a little over a half an hour. I think this is probably a good time to close things out. This has been great. I really appreciate it, Lorenzo. Thank you for coming on.
Likewise, it was super fun. The funniest interview I've had so far. So thank you.
Oh, nice. I'll take it. Wicked. If people want to learn more about you, about USDT0, they want to get involved, pitch me your links. I'll put them in the show notes as well. But where can people find you?
Twitter. I'm just thinking, I don't want my marketing team to kill me, but Twitter is our main communication center. Okay. We also have a paragraph page, so the old mirror, where we are sending constant updates. And my Twitter is @0lore. I can give it to you.
Yeah, I've got it. I'll put it in there.
But yeah, we're talking. We're basically posting quite often, and right now we're doing a big push to actually figure out what other kind of content our community wants to see. Because one thing that we realized is that not many people understand how much money is actually being moved through our rails, if you know what I mean. Like, oh, nice. So how much are you moving? A couple million a day? Or no, actually 300 million. So it's pretty nice. So we're doing our best to actually give more important analytics and informations. And then obviously there's our analytics page, analytics.usdt0.io, and our documentation for any questions, docs.usdt0.io.
Amazing. Cool. Again, Lorenzo, thank you for taking the time. It's been a pleasure. This is a great time.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Enjoy your evening. Thanks.
Likewise.
Bye.
Thank you.